coming in. Thank you. I'm not a tech head, so it's a learning curve. But my name is Veronica Bird. I'm the legislative aide. I just started a week ago, last week, so I'm very happy to meet you, some for the first time, some actually in person. I participated as part of the pre-group to this, the advisory committee. And so I know at that time we had a lot of Zoom sessions, so I'm happy to see people actually have some legs and arms and, not just a torso. But I'll do roll call just to be sure who's all here today. And I'll start with Joseph.
Here.
Traren.
Here.
Jeremy.
Here.
Nyla.
Here.
Idman. Okay. Mr. Khalid is here. Arthur.
Here.
Nick.
Here.
Jamila.
Here.
Julia, thank you. Carla.
Here.
Okay, have I missed anyone? Got everybody? Okay. And we'll start next with our labor acknowledgement. Mr. Khalid, if you want to take it away.
We acknowledge that much of America, including its culture, economic growth, and development, has been made by possible by the forced free labor of enslaved Africans and their descendants, who suffered the horror of transatlantic slave trade, chattel slavery, Jim Crow segregation, and acts of racism, all accumulating in modern day disparities. We pay homage to these ancestors and ask that they guide us, and might I ask that Almighty God guide us. Effort, Reparations Commission, and to correct the wrongs of those who are living and those who are yet born. We're going to have a welcoming and grounding with our city council members.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Just gonna come up here so that I can see. I'll be very brief. I am so grateful to be here with all of you today. My name is Mitra Jalali. I'm now the president of the St. Paul City Council. I was on the previous council, which voted to establish this commission, and I've been trying to guide it to this point in every way that I can. So I just want to personally be here today to say thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your perseverance. There have been beautiful moments in this journey that I think that we've worked through, and I want to just really appreciate the trust and just seeing the potential. I feel good that we took that time because we're here today with our staff. We have new council members who can inform this effort, and I wanted to clarify just my role as council president. This is an initiative of the city council. I personally care very much about and have been involved with conversations to help set it off on the right foot today. I'm an institutional leader who is helping manage all the work and initiatives of the council. And in that way, I provide thought partner support to Veronica, who has stepped up as our new legislative aide for this commission, as well as to my council colleagues who are new on the council, one of whom is not available to be here today. Her name is Councilman Anika Bowie, but she's been very involved in these discussions, had a scheduling conflict today. The other whom you'll hear from in a moment, Councilwoman Shaniqua Johnson. So very proud to make that combination of council members as I'm leading the council now, and they're Black women council members who have made history, have lived experiences, and care very deeply about our communities. And they're bringing that perspective to really guide the work in a way that our previous council was not as positioned to do, and I feel good about that. I also just want to say that it's important to me that your commission's able to begin on solid footing like we are today. And I just want to make it clear that I would like a direct channel to me from any of you if you want to just share anything about how it's going or just to be available to support. I'm not here to like interlope in the conversations or chime in that. I'm more like a guide on the side that you may see me at future meetings if I can be at them and if that's something that's desired. Also, I am very confident and happy to really just be here to help start the process and then to get some information along the way about how I can be helpful. I just want you to know that that's what supporting this initiative looks like to me. It's not saying, oh, they'll figure it out and I don't have to think about it again. It's I'm here as needed and I'm here to support specifically our staff and council colleagues who are really going to help this work at the council level. So with that, I'm really happy to welcome Councilman Shaniqua Johnson, who's also one of our supportive council members who's helped be really part of this steering committee, and welcome her to share a few words as well. Come on up.
Yes. Good afternoon, good evening. I'm like, I am so honored to be in this room. My name is Shaniqua Johnson. I am a council member on the east side of St. Paul. I'm basically Jane Prince's replacement here in Ward 7 and on the east side. It's really important for me to see this room be reflected of the community that we are aiming to serve. So I'm actually really excited about a Ward 7 person leading in the staffing position for this as well. Shameless plug. But my legislative aide, Melody Johnson, and I are also really committed to being able to be here as a support for you. I actually know that she and I have talked about just being really committed to showing up when we need to. And so feel free to also lean on us and like ask questions. I know Councilmember Bowie it's her birthday today and she has a fundraiser this evening. And so otherwise, the two of us, we have literally been going back and forth about this. So we just want you to know that it's definitely a priority. And in many ways, we're both just like, how can we be, we understand as a council committee and commission, but we really do want to be hands-on as much as we'd like. So as you're thinking through the work and kind of diving into things, I would say some of my strengths really do lie within like being able to read the fine print, being able to explain like ordinance language, resolution language, strategy. So I'm more than willing to get coffee with any of you and talk about that, hear about your experiences. Like that's how I organize. That's kind of like the background that I'm bringing. I'm young because I look young. I am young. But I know quite a bit when it comes to just maneuvering the legal spaces and maneuvering government. So I've been blessed to work with some of the greats, some of which I've seen just really bring up a lot of work when it comes to moving Black policy, Black people, Black community members forward. Taking as much as I can from as far as knowledge and learning, but I have a lot to learn from you all too. And so just know that I've read your bios, I've read the things, I've looked you up. I'm really excited about this group. There's a lot of powerful people here. And so just want to share with you that sometimes people talk about representation and they're like, representation matters. Yeah, it does, because so often like we are reminded about just how far we've come, but also like when you say things like Anika and I serving, and it's the second time we've ever had Black women on the city council since Miss Montgomery. And it is literally still looking at the fact that between her and I, we are the second and third. We realize there's a lot of work to do. That's why this commission is there. And so I encourage you to ask questions. I encourage you to lean on us as as allies to you, but also like genuinely the work you do will benefit me and my family. And so I just want you to know like that just hits different. And I hope that you guys will reach out if you have any questions. We'll probably be reaching out separately too, but part of today was really just to see this group together. We were like, we have to meet. Council President has been a huge ally to it. Bren made a lot of significant leeway into the work. But you have friends more so than you do allies. So especially you also have Black people that are just interested in your advice. Just let us know how we can support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I'm supposed to do some more. Are we good?
I'll cue you.
Okay.
Now, I'd like to go around the table and everybody introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about why you're interested in this issue that we're dealing with, and what you would hope that we would be able to accomplish as a result of us coming together. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, I'll get started here. My name is Jeremy English, Commissioner English, I guess now. what were you saying, Nick? Why do we want to be here? Is that the question?
And what would you like to see us accomplish as a result of coming together?
Well, I grew up in the Rondo neighborhood.
Amen.
And I seen, what that neighborhood looked like in the 70s. I seen what that neighborhood looked like in the 80s. And my family was here since, 1958. I've got an old school uncle named Bill English,
All right.
who has been an advocate,
Yes.
within the Twin Cities area since he migrated here, from Brooklyn, Illinois. Brooklyn, Illinois is one of, if not the oldest Black town in the country. So I got a lot of history that's brought me here. And I definitely do work on that on behalf of Black people from this country and beyond. And I just want to see this commission get together to do something special.
You have any specific ideas for what would be special?
I think that's up to the commission to do. I can definitely say I definitely have some raw and genuine experience in the streets talking to folks. But I want to see where everybody's experience is and how we can make this commission a special commission as a unit.
Thank you. Just
My name is Nyla Golden. I am Jay Cox, Bill English daughter, was born like right after me. So she,
Yeah.
she was, I came out first. Apparently her mom was not happy about that. But anyways, grew up in Minneapolis, moved to St. Paul about 34 years ago. And, my background is health and public health. I've been in health since I was 19. And, I really would like to see, even though I know that it's not possible, I'm very much an advocate for universal health care. And that doesn't fix everything, but because of all the different things that have happened down through the centuries, we have huge disparities for Black folks in Minnesota, worse than around the country. And there's so many other things that contribute to that. And so we need to have access. We need to have individuals that are there and a system that welcomes us and understands who we are and what we need as far as the healthcare and understands from a cultural standpoint, the difference that it makes for us. Again, I know that's just a small sliver of what I feel we need as Black folks. And I'm really want to hear the background of other individuals and what they know and understand, because I know I don't know everything there is to know about that. And that'll be factored in. And as I hear some of that, again, I think we'll be able to put together something that's gonna look comprehensive and good for us. And I think that comprehensive component is what's gonna make a difference for our community and for us as we serve our community.
thank you. My brother.
Mhm.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
The question is, what brought you to be interested in being part of the commission? And then secondly, what would you like to see us accomplish as a result of us coming together?
I'm Fern Cruz and I'm co-founder of BLM Minnesota. I got elected chair of the Green Party of the United States Reparations Working Group, I think in 2018. And the mandate was to get HR 40 passed, but because of the Green Party of the United States, the first tenet is grassroots democracy or participatory democracy, which means that everybody should have a say of what happens. So I was thinking that we should start at the local level and then work our way up to the federal level. And then I did a presentation at the Men by Men conference. And then Jane Prince showed up. She liked the presentation and said, this is something she thinks we can get done. But I know the community, so I said, I think we should start a book club first and educate people about it. So nobody can say, well, you didn't talk to me about it. And then, and then a couple weeks after that, Evanston passed theirs. And then, we wrote, a resolution, and then it passed, and, it kept passing now. We're all here, and so I'm excited about that. And
Excuse me, who's part of the we?
all of us in this room, because of that action, that created resolution 2177 that apologized for voting dress stop military slavery as Fort Snelling, apologized for the destruction of the Rondo community via the I-94 freeway, and apologized for St. Paul's role in practicing institutional racism against its Black residents. It also set up a limited term legislative advisory committee that some of us served on to make short-term, medium, and long-term recommendations on how to address the racial wealth gap in St. Paul. So what I want to see happen is for us to address the harm that St. Paul has caused to the Black community in St. Paul, and for us as a group to make transformative recommendations on how to close the racial wealth gap, short-term, medium, and long-term recommendations on how to close the racial wealth gap and build generational wealth for the American descendants of child slavery who reside in St. Paul. Thank you.
Go ahead.
My name is Joe Bluehorn. Everybody calls me Seth, second syllable of Joseph. My family moved here in 1954 from New York City. And we had a footprint, actually a couple of footprints, but we had a footprint in, some people call it Rondo, some people call it the Hill, Summit University. Anyway, we had a spot for 50 years. My contributions maybe will come from three directions, at least one of which would probably not be the most popular. But I have three careers, one in law enforcement, a long career in corporate communications, and a slightly longer career than the law enforcement one in public education. My mother was a public educator. My sister was a public educator. My daughter was a public educator. My grandmother was a public educator. And I'm with my companion here, Treherne, on the building community wealth, building wealth. That's obviously a huge gap, and all by itself would be an amazing thing to put together. But I also think that, and I just reread this recently, Ta-Nehisi Coates' 2014 essay actually is, to me, a very potent, and I'm going to call it a touchstone or framework for at least the kinds of things that we should be looking at. And what I would like to see happen is there's a consensus or there's some understanding gets built, but I would like to see something happen that can be measured so that we could say this measurably changed, this measurably advanced. And I realize that not everything that goes into this would be tangible, but I'm interested in the tangible part.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Arthur Ray McCoy. Most people know me by Ray. My mother was really the only one that called me Arthur, but first name, so it shows up on everything. But in the future, you'll probably just hear me go by Ray. I am interested in this commission. First of all, I want to thank everybody that did so much work to make this happen. I think St. Paul has already made history in the sense that it established a permanent commission. I've been tracking these conversations in other cities and around the country, and very few established a permanent commission. A lot of them were task force with a short lifespan and a lot of work to do in that time frame. And so I was drawn to this opportunity in part because it did say there's an opportunity to build something permanently. The conversation clearly can't happen on a short-term basis. It's going to be challenging, it's going to be difficult, and that means it's going to take time. So in my mind, we start from a really powerful and positive position in that we have a permanent commission and not a task force with a short lifespan. Secondly, I've been kind of a child of a product of the desegregation efforts in this country. And I think I said in my application, I was born in 54. The year Brown versus Board of Education was decided. I was 10 years old then when the Civil Rights Act was passed. And one of the things that I saw as I moved into my college years was efforts nationwide to destroy those desegregation laws, the civil rights laws. It also then alerted me to the limitation of those things. And reparations offers a chance to not have to worry about balancing the interest of whites and descendants of slavery, but to really look at the harm caused to the descendants of chattel slavery and talk about how we fix that. I think the civil rights, as you saw with the Supreme Court's recent decision tossing out affirmative action, that it's cut off another avenue to make that process work the way it was intended. So in my mind, reparations offers an opportunity to change that conversation, change that narrative. I come to this process with a legal background, having helped a lot of higher ed institutions try to set up those desegregation efforts, only to see those crushed and challenged at every turn. And so what I'm looking for is really to, one of the things I'd like to see come out of this process, aside from the things that everyone else has said, which I agree with, is the establishment of a legal underpinning for reparations that can survive the challenges that are going to come. Right now, you'll see that even the housing initiative that St. Paul has started is really designed as an equity initiative. It is not reparations. It's about equity. And so we need to really have this conversation about what exactly we mean when we say reparations. And is that something that's possible to achieve at the local level? Because there are a lot of naysayers who said, you can't, this is a national problem. You can't fix it here. But what I firmly believe is that we have the ability to establish a framework for structuring a process at the local level that can serve as a national example. And that's what I'm interested in.
My name is Nick Mohammed. I'm here in the capacity of a concerned community member. Also grew up in the city of St. Paul since 1987. Transplanted here from Indianola, Mississippi. A very, very, very small town. I think the biggest thing there was B.B. King and his museum. And for me, I remember St. Paul where I could go down Selby Avenue and there were several Black businesses that used to take us in and look out for us. I remember the first time I've ever seen a Rondo Day parade coming down Marshall Avenue when I was a young 11-year-old, and the inspiration that the community had shown and exemplified to me at a very young age coming into this city. And at that point, I've been in some schools, but I seen nothing but a bunch of white kids. And so when I seen Rondo Days and came into this particular area, it really lifted my spirits and I felt at home for the first time. So that's one of the things that drove me to reparations work and drove me to this council. What I'd like to see this commission accomplish, much to some of the sentiments that have already been expressed, I want to make sure that it is tangible, that we're not just a recommendation that goes unheard, and that we're actually thinking about things that are going to be quantifiable. Young enough to still remember the great work that my elders do and try not to take advantage of the fact that they're here. I'm also old enough to have children that are now in their early 20s and want to start families and businesses and have dreams of their own. I want to make sure that they have every resource and opportunity available to them to make sure that those things can happen. And so for me, this commission is very much about making sure that we build the institutional supports that will free up future generations, give justice to the elders who paved the way for us to be here, and making sure that we're committed to going through each aspect of the city's business to make sure that we can actually figure out reparations frames and legal frameworks to target and make sure that the Black community is receiving the same amount of help that they were targeted with from the city for things like Rondo. And that's my motivation. I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of the fact that what happened to us was calculated. It was supported by political entities. It was supported by private entities. And in order for this to work, we have to get the same commitment that they had to put us in the conditions we were in to get us out. You know, it's a universal law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So I think it's a perfect petri dish for the nation. And if we can get it right in this small city compared to the nation, we have evidence that we have a model that just might be able to scale up to help people across the country. And that's what I hope this commission is able to do.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamila Pickett. I'm an educator in St. Paul. I was born in St. Paul, raised on the east side of St. Paul. My father came from Chicago in the 90s, and my mother came from Myanmar as well in the 90s. Since childhood, I was by my father was very ingrained, and pride of my ancestry was very ingrained in me and my history. However, as you age and you study and you grow up, you realize it's not all happy and good things that have happened to your people. I particularly have an interest in pre-colonial Africa. That's my favorite subject to read about and learn about. However, there has been a huge crime against my people that has impacted us at the federal level as well as the state and local level as well. And it makes me really angry, and it makes me physically angry, and it's something that I want to put my energy into making a change in our community, and also making an impact that is something that people can actually say, not just in data, but also that qualitative data as well, as people are able to verbalize the changes in their lives and able to analyze those things. I'm not going to always say the things that people want to hear. I'm just going to say that right now. I have found myself in a lot of situations where that has happened, but I'm here to actually make a change and not play games. And so I have a big interest around housing. I think that there are ongoing crimes against African Americans in our city that I feel like need to be undone and need to be addressed, as well as past injustices that have never been brought up or have never been fully addressed. I'm not into saying just sorry and let's move on. There are things that need to move. And yeah, I'm already feeling a lot of energy right now, so I'm sorry if I'm just getting into it. But yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I'm looking forward to learning from you all at the table as well, and also giving my insights. So thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kulia Pringle, and I am a secondary social studies educator by trade. I'm also an education advocate, so that is the lens that I bring to the table. I'm also a descendant of, African transatlantic slave trade via the Caribbean. My grandmother came to the United States in the 1960s, and my father has, been on KMOJ since the very beginning. He's the second longest person at KMOJ next to Q Bear. And then my one of my aunts happened to marry into a Rondo family, the Ransoms and the Davises. So these are my peoples. So yeah, that I'm hoping, and I know the city does not have a direct hand in education, but I believe that it does because education affects us all. To me, that is like, besides the healthcare, once a child is born, like the disparities begin at birth, but then the child enters into pre-K, and disparities for Black people in Minnesota is disgusting, and there's no outrage, and I'm outraged, and I feel like this is one way I could put my anger into some sort of reparations when it comes to the miseducation of Black people in St. Paul. And I feel like the city needs to be more accountable to all its citizens, including partnering with the education system in St. Paul. And I'm hoping that we come out with a clear path, a clear plan, concrete measurements, as has been said before, on how we could truly move and repair harm for the ADOS community. And I hope there's like money attached to reparations, because to me, that's a part of reparations is money. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Carla Robinson. I am not a native, grew up in St. Paul since 4. Moved away, came back, been back for about 20 years living in St. Paul. Grew up in Highland Park, so not in the Rondo community, but spent a lot of time in the Rondo community. Have always been a member of Pilgrim Baptist Church since I've been here. So I have a deep connection to that neighborhood and many people who have grown up in that community. So I know about the disparities that were caused by 94 being built, and have heard about some of the experiences of families that were displaced and had to restart their lives, and the wealth that was lost through the process. I am very committed to ID&E work. I have a background in corporate America, primarily finance, data analytics, cost savings. ID&E work is what I've been doing lately. I'm the chair of the Black ERG at Best Buy. And so I have like a lot of training in that area, in that space. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, so we work heavy in the community. I'm a member of the Links Incorporated, we work heavy in the community. So I have a lot of connections in spaces and places to get into different areas of the community to learn more about what people are looking for. What I hope to get out of this is just to elevate Black people in St. Paul, right? Like, I'm for everybody Black winning, right? And this is one area where I know we have such huge disparities across all levels of life in the Black community, that if you start with the wealth, that's one area where we can make a difference through reparations. But when you make people, give folks access to more, then you can have impact in all the other spaces, right? Health disparities, educational disparities, all of those spaces where we need improvement. And so I also am looking for a tangible way to give back to the community. I'd like to see measurable outcomes as well, because that's the only way you can see if you're successful or not. I'm just excited to be here. I think this is very important work, and I'm really proud of the city of St. Paul for stepping up and saying that this is a place where we can make an impact. So thank you.
Good evening. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Brother, I don't know if you're the oldest or I'm the oldest, but appreciate your wisdom. Yeah.
Actually, I think I am.
Yeah.
How old are you?
1949.
54, so.
1949.
1943.
40, you win.
In God, most gracious, most merciful. I'm a child of Rondo. Not a scholar. I'm just a brother from the street. And the neighborhood that I lived in and grew up in up to the age of 13 years old was perfect in every sense of the word. Anybody that needed anything, they got it right there. Whether you had emotional problems, was without hope, whether you needed a meal, whether you needed a place to sleep. We didn't know anyone that was in institution. Nobody. We didn't know anyone growing up that was locked up in the criminal justice system. And then all of a sudden, because of government action, boom, they blew up our safe haven. We didn't know anything about racism, discrimination, even though we were told certain parts of the city, boy, you stay away from there. But we didn't have any reason to venture outside of that. And after that happened, they turned the devil loose on our community. They tore down our moral curtain that we had. We knew what we could and couldn't do. So when we talk about what we lost, a lot of times people talk about the dollar amount. But they don't talk about the moral authority. They don't talk about the generational trauma that caused. And so that's why I'm really inspired today to be among this group of folks that sharp minds here. And I feel a sense of commitment. But we got a long way to go. And I think my brother mentioned about St. Paul. Us Black folks here in St. Paul have been conspicuously silent. Some people would label me as a troublemaker, a radical, a racist, and on and on. And I may say some things that offend some people. That's based on my experience. And if you can't accept that and have empathy for my experience, then that's your problem. Because you lack understanding. And let me just say this. After the freeway went through, they weren't done with us. No, they wasn't. They came with urban renewal. And I'm saying all this to make a case for reparations. Then they came through with urban renewal with great promises. And then they allowed us to move south up on Selby. And brother, as you mentioned, here comes some businesses. And we said, wow, we rebuilt that economic engine. But it was all a mirage, along with urban renewal. And folks in my community stood by and watched folks that looked like me kill each other. The problem we didn't have on Roundup, but they created that problem up on Dale and Selby. And we asked the man to help us. Come on, man, what you gonna do about this? And it was benign neglect. They didn't do a damn thing about it. Until Black folks stood up. When we talk about Black Lives Matter, we put the stamp on that. It said, you gotta come on here and do something. And the Black businesses up there that were establishing themselves, little by little, disappeared. Folks would come down here, can you help us out? Well, no, we want you to succeed, but we're gonna do something for you. And then here come a group of people into our city. And this may offend some people, but like I said, you lack empathy from my experience if this offends you. They build new homes before they came to us. They didn't talk to no descendants of Rondo or people like my cousins and others and said, can we give you a house? No, you gave it to other people. You came up with all these other programs. But because we were deep in our moral fiber to a certain extent, we didn't say anything about it and went along to get along. And so what we have to do, and what I would hope this body would do, we got to educate the public. We got to educate the public that it wasn't just a matter of dollars, it was generational trauma. And many of my friends like me, we didn't get in trouble, except a little bit here, a little bit there, a little shoplifting here in the local store, stealing some candies or cookies. We didn't hurt each other. And when you got in a fight with a brother, you didn't kick him. We didn't have that rage in us that was passed on from this generational trauma that we went through. And as a result of them busting our bubble, and I don't want to blame everything on the destruction of Rondo, but I'm damn sure gonna blame a lot because they planted the seed. They lit the fuse. When I was 16 years old, I ended up in Boys Totem Town for 8 months. And when I got up there, I looked around and many of my friends from the neighborhood was up there. Wait a minute. It didn't even dawn on us how we really got there, that moral fiber was destroyed. And so I just want to say that it's so important. And we demanded apologies. Thank you. Let's put that in the file and keep on moving. Because this may be, in my lifetime, the best opportunity that we have. But it's so important that folks know our story. And don't bring me that, you don't want to do this, you've already done it for others. And you damn well can do it for us, because we got a lot of blood on the table. A lot of blood on the table. And when I think about, and over the years, I was with the head of the NAACP for almost 20 years. And we peeled back the scale off racism. I mean, I didn't realize it was so deep. Here in the saintly city of St. Paul, brothers were being strip searched, their drawers being pulled down on the streets in St. Paul, Minnesota. They didn't even recognize our humanity. It would displace folks out of their rental property and go there with a bogus search warrant. And the city inspectors would come and put a placard on the door, unfit for human habitation. Especially if you lived in an area that was predominantly white. So I just want to say all that, and I can say a lot more, but I'm not. I'm going to respect everybody's time, but I want you to think long and hard about us making our case. So nobody can stand in front of us and deny our generational trauma, besides the generational wealth. And people talk about the loss of equity. Land is the greatest transfer of wealth. They talk about that lost equity with homes. What about the businesses? You said there couldn't have been 300 businesses. Yeah, there was probably more than 300 businesses, because a lot of brothers and sisters didn't have signs on their home, but they ran businesses out of their home. And when I spent my dollar, or my grandpa spent his dollar, it went all the way through the neighborhood and came back to him. Now we spend a dollar, it's gone forever. What little neighborhood we got left. And what are we gonna do about that? And I just hope that, and I know some of the folks here, those that I don't know, I'm hearing what you say. And I hope your mind and your conscience lead you by the grace of Almighty God for us to come together and put some meat on the bone and to do some things that I'm going to be gone and others going to be gone, but at least our children and grandchildren can say that you planted the seed. And then they can nourish the seed. Thank you.
Right.
You're keeping the heat down a little bit, okay? I know you personally. I know you got a lot of heat in you.
Well, again, my name is Veronica Burt, and just to, maybe give you a little bit more background about myself so that, you don't just see me as a staff person, but you see me as a fellow community member as well. But I'm originally from Chicago. I've lived here in the Twin Cities in St. Paul primarily for over 30 years. I went to the U of Minnesota. And when I first left Chicago to come to Minnesota to go to school, a lot of my friends, I grew up on the South Side in a predominantly Black community. My friend said, "Where are you going to school?" I said, "Minnesota." And they said, "Minnesota? Are there Black people there?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Who?" And I thought for a minute and I said, "Prince." And they, "Oh, wow, why didn't you say so?" So that helped put, Minnesota a bit in context for me and others. But it really wasn't until I moved here and I got immersed and welcomed by people in the Rondo neighborhood, because I first said, well, where's the Black community in St. Paul? And I was directed, around the Selby area to people like Nick, Deborah Montgomery, and I got engaged. And I was really moved because I learned about the story of Rondo. And the story of Rondo helped me personally reflect on my own history, my own neighborhood in Chicago, because I would take the train from the South Side to the North Side through downtown, and I would say, why does my neighborhood look bombed out? No businesses, there's, not a lot of entrepreneurial traffic going on and opportunity, but yet I would travel through downtown and onto the North Side and just see a lot of bustle and activity. And I couldn't put it into context until I moved here and I learned about Rondo's story. And from there, I started to understand and connect a lot of the history and the policy making. And align that with our history and connection with, racist structures. And once my eyes began to open around that, I began to teach young African-American kids about their history. And if you knew of people like Kamal Campbell, who used to do the Underground Railroads, I was part of, folks like him. And even did youth development programs that help young people go through those experiential educational processes so that their eyes would open up. And as I explored a bit more and began to read more books, years later, Randall Robinson wrote his book, The Debt. And it was through Elder Mahmoud El-Kati, who elevated a lot of discussions around that. And, from there, I wanted to be a part of the reparations issue. And very early in 2000, did a lot of education at that time and met with Randall Robinson, along with Elder Nick Khalik and others, and got involved very early in the early 2000s of the reparations movement. And, at the time when 9/11 came, a lot of things had shifted because, nobody wanted to be associated with terrorism. And, so, movements ebb and flow. And I think with, George Floyd, what happened here locally, that has kind of resurfaced, a lot, of this issue and a lot of disparities that we face. So I hope, my role in this, helps to bring my experiences, my relationships, and my interests to really see something tangible happen that affects us for sure locally and affects us as well nationally. So I want to thank you again, and I'm looking forward to working with y'all. So.
We're gonna, review the ordinance now. And if anybody has any questions, just hop in, raise your hand.
Yeah. So what I want you to do is take out, the first sheet here is the St. Paul Code Ordinance, Chapter 1112, that set up the St. Paul Recovery Act Community Reparations Commission. So just broadly, the city ordinance establishing the commission occurred January 4th of 2023. And then the city resolution appointing everybody as commissioners occurred June 28th of 2023. So just so that you kind of see that relationship, but I first want to point you to, what our role is as the commission, so that we're at least, starting from that as a foundation. So if you look at section 11201 purpose, it says the St. Paul Recovery Act Community Reparations Commission serves as an advisory body to the mayor and city council on matters relating to repairing the damage caused by public and private systemic racism in the city of St. Paul, which resulted in racial disparities in generational wealth, home ownership, healthcare, education, employment, and pay, and fairness within the criminal justice system among American descendants of slavery. So really kind of highlight that and lock that into your mindset, because that's primarily the purpose of this body. And then the second key component is on page 2, section 1112.05, powers and duties. The commission shall act in an advisory capacity to the mayor and city council in all policy and budget matters pertaining to reparations within the city through the following activities. A, shall be empowered to make short, medium, and long-term policy, program, and budget recommendations to specifically address the creation and sustainment of generational wealth for the American descendants of chattel slavery, and to boost economic mobility and opportunity in the American descendants of chattel slavery community. B, shall establish a work plan annually, which will serve to notify city officials of the commission's priorities and activities. Shall develop time-based evaluations of city expenditures using quality of life metrics as indicators of progress and reparations. D, review, and advise on city programming and budgeting relating to reparations. E, serve as an expert for reparations policies and actions within the city. And then F, conduct all business in such a manner as to encourage and utilize maximum city participation. So it's a big charge, but I think it's a in-depth charge that a lot of what each of you are saying you want to see accomplished, I think is pretty reflective, in what our charge is. And as I've talked to the city council members, historically, a woman-led city council representation, they are very much in agreement and in alignment in wanting to see something substantial happen. So I think we're in a good space, a space that we may not have been in a very long time. Mm. So with that said, I do want to bring back up Councilmember Johnson, if she's still here. to talk a little bit about, maybe discussing some policy related updates and maybe get some feedback. So council members, yeah, wanted,
I just also wanna, I'll let you get, I will make this one shorter because I wanna stick to the 5:30 time. But basically, this is the ordinance language that's put in place right now that is like how we are currently operating. So one of the things, like before today, how many of you guys had seen the ordinance, read through the ordinance, familiar with it? Wonderful. Were you all also a part of the drafting the language? So you also know what was removed and wasn't removed. Okay, so my encouragement really is that, you know, for folks, this is a great, like, I think, great start. Have concerns about some things that I would hope that the commission could also like kind of dive into. I think the biggest thing is like, this is a commission that's housed within the city council. As you've seen, like in the mission and in the purpose and the work behind you, you have two advisory, like basically your advisor capacity has to be done also to the council as well as the administration. The commission is not a city commission. It is a city council commission, which is important for folks to understand the difference. Being that there are planning commissions, there are other commissions like in the city that operate and that also operate under the city and the city departments are in partnership with them. And this one does not. This one is housed within our council. So your council members are truly in this capacity or your allies in this process, because at this time, that's part of the reason why we have, you know, Veronica is part of the commission. She's a council employee. And so she's also a part of like our circuit. I would explain it differently, but in simplistic terms, she works with us on the third floor. And there are many people who work for the city, but who do not work on the third floor. That is missing right now from this ordinance. And I think that that's something to really think about as a commission. Another part that was significantly slashed is your budget. So I really wanted to bring that as points of places to really think through what this board could look like. Because as a council, we are going to begin our budget process. We are also going to be having conversations with the administration on that. And so I would also encourage you while you are here to think about certain aspects of the city and also just like questions that you may have for different departments, for different leaders, to inform you about the things that you will most likely need to request to be informed on, so you can participate and be an advisement to that. I hope that that makes sense as well. I'm here to answer the questions, Mr.
Just like that.
Okay, so,
So to help us out,
yes.
and maybe to save time,
Mhm.
what I'm imagining is a comparison would be a congressional January 6th commission set up by Congress, made up of congressmen and women,
Mhm.
and the Department of Justice, which is part of the executive branch. And what you're saying is we're over here with the January 6th. And whether or not the Department of Justice, the executive, any part of the administration takes what we say, we make criminal referrals or we don't, that's where we're at. We're sitting over here in the legislative part. And the executive part, the judicial part, they could pay attention or not. Am I understanding this?
In so many words, in my interpretation,
Make too many.
I will also say for me, I want to be very clear in my opinion, because I want you to know, like, from what I've gathered, I would encourage you to talk to other council members that are a part of it. Council president was actually involved in some of the processes and like understanding. From what I have gathered as a council member, and something that I really wanted to bring to the commission to see and get feedback, but also to put on your radar, is that the council is currently like your strongest allies in this capacity. And as it relates to the commission and the mission that you've put in place, what is written in the ordinance. Pieces of the ordinance that was changed was the budget, as well so as its placement. So the commission is housed with the city council. And I think that that is something to think about when we think about like implementations and what you're describing is tangible, what you're saying are things that are really like, that you would like to act in ways to be most influential. And so I hope that that's a part of your work plan and the things that are are written down in here, as a way to share that with you, because it's something that for me and Councilmember Bowie, I know we talked about it, because that is something, those are our two biggest things that I would encourage you to think about, in the process moving forward. Other than that, on the plus side, there's some, yes, sir.
Just a
Yes,
quick
Mr. Boyd.
question. I don't know if you know this. Is this the only commission that is under the council as opposed to the mayor's office?
Yes, sir. Right? Is there another council commission?
There used to be a council commission on like early education, but that had like a scope of work that wrapped up. So there was a time where there were theoretically two, but then one of them kind of wrapped up their stuff. So right now it is the only one, yes.
And so when those changes were made, was this a decision of the mayor's office or the council?
This was the council.
Okay. Just trying to.
So I think that people were notified about that. And this is again, I will just simply say, it is not to say that that was maybe, no, actually, I don't agree with the decision made, but it's not to say that there was like probably not extensive conversations and a reason. This ordinance was authored by many people, council members who were no longer here, as well as council members that were. And I would encourage you to ask those questions, but also just to keep in mind that these are things that we can think about in the future of like informing and setting up the tools to be able to come back with a different ask, which is within the purview of the commission to do. And so when you think about just like what you're looking at, we can, I think that it's really amazing. One, that this is the permanent commission. It's being recognized already before you guys are even diving in as a nation setter, like a truly like recognizable thing to honor. And we've heard that, we've seen that represented by some of your colleagues here. And so there's a lot to be proud of. And when you're thinking about just like tangibles and outcomes, I would highly encourage you to think about like, what are the things we need to come up with some sort of proposal for council members to see what is it that you want to do? Like, do you want to do community engagement efforts? There's no money for you to do that right now. Do you want to do that? Because if you want to do that, let's start thinking about that piece of like, what does that look like for us? So for me, that's a really important space. I have things that I can send to you as far as Veronica as like reflections, but I didn't want to come in and do that with you. I think that when you're looking at that, I just wanted to bring that into a space of like, the power in the ordinance is the language. If you want the language to change, think about structuring your conversations to do so. And the budget season this year is actively going. Yes, sir. Mr.
Who
Curry.
does, Veronica report to?
Director of Operations.
Director of Operations. So Brandon was here, but I think she had to step out for a minute. She also would then.
And what's her position and title and area of responsibility?
I mean, she's right there.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about Brand?
Yeah, the young lady
Veronica.
that Veronica reports to.
The Director of Operations / also council.
So we have a council director who oversees like the whole city council staff team. So like all of our executive assistants, our legislative aides, the central staff who do things like help people with their appeals, stuff like that. And also because this is a council initiative, Veronica's role is within that. And then in terms of the day-to-day of like supervision and support, it's Bryn, but then like honestly heavily informed by the 3 council members who have said, up to 3 of us can be working on something at a time without it turning into like an open meeting quorum violation. So council president, Councilwoman Johnson, Councilwoman Bowie, we're the pod of council members that are like heavily involved at this stage, just to help it get started and to really support things starting off down this path. So that's how that all works together. If that's helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
So the budget season, how is that? Because this is opposite from the,
So
Health and
it's all in one. So the budget season for the city, the budget for the city is one process. And so there are areas like, think of it kind of like the administration also has their process, the council has their process. We meet together to discuss the big budget process at the end of the year. So like,
so it's always annual though?
it's always annual,
Okay, so
Yep.
every fiscal year.
always annual.
Okay.
Yep, so if you guys feel like you need strong discussions and to get on the same page to define different things, I encourage you to take that time. And also know that like, you're not on our clock. We don't expect you to come back with like this isn't going anywhere because the ordinance has protected that. So the ordinance has put in place that you guys can truly take as much time as you need. So like, it's more of just like, we can move in a direction that you would like to see, but when you think about the language and what you're absorbing here today, I'd also encourage you to follow the resolution numbers and just go back to what the language was, as well so as the committees that were in place beforehand. There was a task force that basically provided recommendations to the city and the administration about what they thought this could be. It's a page, 19 pages, I think. There's several things that we really can start talking about, including like some of the recommendations that were implemented. So just think about that. There's a lot of things that you guys were all a part of, and there's a lot of information that you don't have to recreate the real. But I wanted to share that with you while I had you all in one space, to share with you the things that, like, if I had a wand, I could change. So yes, Ms. Brown.
Quick question, you said the budget was slashed and that we don't have money for community engagement. What is the budget?
There wasn't a budget.
There wasn't a budget.
In the ordinance that.
So this is where like the council partnership and why I'm here and why I think this council like steering committee is valuable is that working towards a community engagement vision, I imagine at some point you all want to hold community meetings and like fund that engagement, right? Understanding what that could entail. Is it $200 for a hot dinner for everyone? We can work on like tapping sources to cover that. Like if it's, we know that we want to have an additional person that we hire and like what, just, we need to understand like what's even on the table for discussion for like getting the work done so that in the year where we're starting together, right? The budget is the staffer and then stipends. And then beyond that, like we want to grow this with you and understanding in the short term how to meet those needs. We want to support that. And then in the long term, we want to come back to you all as we do our annual city budgeting process to look at like, what are the ways we can continue to strengthen this commission over time with like program funding, right? So that's part of what we're talking about here, in addition to like the departments and how that works. So happy to talk more through that, but I just
How much
wanted
more time do we have left in this meeting?
I think we have the room till 6. So,
Okay,
so we're okay. I mean, we're almost coming to the end.
okay, well, no, that's not the issue. I just want to make sure that we're able to get through some of, most of the agenda. You know what I mean? Because I mean, you want.
Yeah. So maybe we can wrap up if there's maybe one last question.
But yeah, not to,
Oh, no.
not to take.
We're gonna make this a little bit short. Want y'all to know about that.
Yeah, not to take away.
Of course, whenever you are, when you're kind of thinking about ways to dive in, that is where I think some of the council members can be helpful with. But you can also like in this commission, if something is about like, it would be helpful to meet with someone to have this explained to us. It will be helpful to meet with someone to have the budget process brought in. Those are some of the things that like, I would also encourage you to take advantage of because you're also you are housed within, the council, but you're also like an entity within the city too. So lean on that. That's all I'm gonna say for now. If you have any questions or anything like that, I'll put my cards, I'll give them to Veronica. Yeah.
Thank you. So now we're going to talk about election of officers and the bylaws that we're guided by to complete that task.
Okay, so again, referring back to the ordinance. If you look at section 11204 that talks about meetings. Here it's laying out that the commission shall establish a regular time and place and shall meet monthly unless determined otherwise by the commission. So there is some wiggle room if you want to meet more frequently. At its first meeting each year, the commission shall elect its chair and vice chair. Now, today we have Elder Khalid as an interim chair, but going forward, at our next meeting, hopefully we can
Actually,
select.
I want to, I'm glad you brought that up, Veronica, because, with all due respect to my great elder, I kind of want to just real fast take a real quick minute about why it's important for us to elect a chair and why we're here.
Excuse me just a minute. Were you done? Let her finish, and then I can recognize.
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay. And I think this will get to where I'm thinking you may be going.
exactly.
But that is something that we can start that process, today. We don't have to put the elections on the table, but at least we can talk about, a process to do so. That sound okay?
Well,
And
we do
then-
have to do that today, don't we?
Yeah.
We have to make the election today.
Yeah.
We're
yeah,
not waiting for the next meeting to elect the chair. right?
Exactly. I think we should do that today.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, we good.
Is there a consensus or majority?
Can I speak real quick, just real quick?
How many wanna hold off and how many wanna hold off? Look like everybody's shaking their head to have it today, is that right?
Well, that's
Yeah, I
what-
think-
Anyone wanna wait?
I do.
Okay.
I would like to
Anyone
have a chance to understand who's interested in positions.
else?
And
Okay, excuse me, brother, he had the floor.
I'm sorry, I thought I was being asked a question.
The
I
main reason,
apologize.
the main reason why I think we need to elect the chair today is because we need to start the process of some of, what, Mitra and, Shaniqua were talking about. And we already have somebody at the table who not only understands all of this language, along with me and Nick and others who were part of that, who were part of that legislative advisory board, but who wrote it, basically. And that's Trey Hearn Cruz. And I think that needs to be said, on record, that Trey basically almost authored this himself. And I appreciate you, brother. And I have no problems with nominating Trey Hearn Cruz as the chair today.
I don't have a problem with that.
No, you had something you were saying when
I don't need to say it.
Okay.
We'll open the floor now.
We can open the floor now, that's.
So we'll open the floor up now for nominations and, those that are nominated, if they agree to put their name in the hat, we'll give a 2-minute spiel on why they should leave this body.
Could I just ask? From a process standpoint, Bryn, I don't know how we determine this, but from under open meeting law, if it was noticed that we're actually discussing this today, do they have to take a procedural action to then change that? So we have on here.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Sorry, the question is that this is a commission that follows open meeting law, which means the notice agenda topics then dictate like what can get decided. And so I just want to make sure, like, is there additional action if they want to proceed from the agenda so that that can be followed?
I think the agenda lists discussion about election of officers. I think that if the body is choosing to have that discussion lead to the election, I think that's fine with how this.
Thank you. Just want to
And
make
so
sure.
that means we can
Yes.
conduct the business of election. Nick?
Yep.
That's what.
You had your hands up?
Yeah, I was gonna, thank you, Chair. I was gonna say that we should probably hold off, have the discussion, but hold off on the actual election. Only because we want to make sure that we can get out of the way, time commitment, figure out what, if anybody else would like to be the chair and get that out. Because to throw everybody into the middle of it in a rush fashion, I don't think does justice to the talent that we have at the table. So people might want to take some time to consider and think about, who they would like to see, or if they themselves would like to be nominated, and then mull that over and really weigh this thing out. Because right now, a lot of people for the first time are going through some of the bylaws and the processes. We want to give them an opportunity to process that and see if they're suited to handle that. Because as Councilmember Shaniqua brought up, there's things that were in the original that have been stripped out. So there's a lot of things that we have to do to recenter ourselves so we actually have the power to impact what we say we want to impact. And being able to navigate those systems, with all due respect, you could be the author. That doesn't mean that you have to abandon the rest of the talent that you have that can help this thing be executed in a better fashion. So there's a lot of people with experience at the table. And I would like to be able to kind of mull over who's here and think about who I would want to throw my support behind.
So you mentioned something about the language that was taken out. So are you saying between this meeting and the next meeting that the commission or Veronica should go back with the 3 or 4 members that put that language together about putting it back in there?
Well, I want people to have time to consider who they'd like to have as the board chair in the further discussion. And the part that was taken out was raised by Commissioner Johnson. And that's something for us to consider, which is going to be a very heavy task to engage in reverse.
So are you saying that should be revisited in between the meetings or
Well,
after the new chair is elected?
no, we don't have to revisit it during the meetings. I'm saying in light of that, we want to think about who's best to put in the position to tackle being our spear point, our the tip of the spear to get that done.
Okay.
So generally, he's saying he wants, you know, maybe more
Time to think
time
about
to
who we
decide
elect, yeah.
on who should be our elected officers.
My brother had his hand.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about delaying a selection of a chair. If we're gonna get work done, we need to get into it. The chair runs the meeting. The chair is not dictating the conversation. We need a chair to kick off our meetings and get this process started. Once we have a chair and a vice chair, we can get to work running the commission, which is what we're been tasked to do. So the conversation about what changed from the initial legislation to this one is a part of the work that we need to do. And the chair calls the meetings, conducts the business. And so I don't see that unless somebody doesn't understand what that role would be, and we need to talk about that. I thought that the agenda item was to select a chair. So the next meeting, the chair is calling the meeting instead of having someone else call us to meet. And then I feel like we'd be wasting time.
And the chair not only runs the meetings, but they speak on behalf of most bodies.
Yeah.
In absence of a meeting. Go ahead, man.
And then the ordinance says that we, at our first meeting, we shall select the chair, and this is our first meeting.
Yeah.
So I think, and we've been waiting for a year and a half.
What
I wanna
section is that in? Could you?
And I just want to add.
Hold it, y'all, let's speak one at a time. Were you done?
Yeah, well, I think we've been waiting a year and a half, and then at least since the summer, was it last summer or this summer? So I think we need to kind of get started and start.
But you just read it. It's section 112.04. It says that its first meeting each year, the commission shall select its chair and vice chair.
It does say that.
And this is the first
Yep, it
meeting.
does say that.
Okay.
I think that, we have the experience at this table to get some special things done. But I think it starts with us getting our work done today. And there's something to be said for us holding that back. I think we know in our minds who we want to focus in on, who's the chair is going to be. Yes, there are absolutely fabulous minds at this table. But I think the business of this commission is to get things done and get a true focus on where our agenda is going, starting today. It's good to meet everybody. It's good to see everybody. But I know folks want to go home saying we accomplished something tonight. And I think putting a face on this commission would be that. And like I said, everybody can vote.
Well, I think what I'm gonna do is call for a raise of hands of those that it's in the ordinance. Do we want to follow through what's in the ordinance, or do we want to divert from that? How many are in favor of following the ordinance and holding the election tonight for chair and vice chair?
Do we have to like vote yes or no? Can we vote that, like, we don't?
Yeah, there should be an abstain as well.
You can abstain. You can do that. How many in favor? 2, 3, 4. How many opposed? Abstentions? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a tie.
Abstain isn't,
It's not voting.
it's not a vote.
No,
It's still not a majority of quorum,
So just
Yeah.
process points, quorum in the room or majority vote for your ordinance. 4 votes is not a majority, nor is it a quorum,
Right,
and so that motion would fail regardless.
right.
And can I just?
It's gotta be the majority of the folks that are present.
Yeah, just, so part of, in order to, sorry, my interest is that people are like following the process and that they have the information to make the decision. And I think this is a worthy conversation and I respect it. For that end, for having information to make decisions. Veronica, it was my understanding that you were gonna present what the chair and vice chair do and actually explain what that is and give people that so that they can decide how they want to decide. So I know that we're close to the end of time. I do care about just, she had, it's my understanding, our staff member had things she wanted to present that didn't get to be fully explained because then this also important conversation happened. So,
What about the language in the ordinance?
so
Do
the,
we have the authority to sort of circumvent that?
so you can, my understanding is that you can, vote at the next meeting if you want to. You would just notice that topic ahead of time. You can vote at this meeting if you want to. And I think that's what that motion that we just did was. So I would like, in order to inform the conversation, Veronica had other things she wanted to present that I don't think we've gotten to yet. So,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to support.
Which would be,
No audience, brother.
Just,
Just that.
just to add as well for context, so what just happened, and it will be reflected in the notes, there was a motion to make a vote. The action requires a quorum and a majority vote. That's what happened, it failed. So moving forward, just in a process standpoint, that action has been already discussed and voted on. Moving forward, you can choose to hear from, would you like to have the discussion that is on the agenda? At this point, that's kind of what we're deciding kind of like.
So everybody understand that? We didn't get a majority one way or the other. So,
So we're done with that topic then, right? We can move on to the next agenda item.
that's the thing.
Right.
She was-
That is-
But the discussion,
Yeah, exactly.
let her present the role.
That's what.
Yeah, I was just asking.
Well,
We-
yeah, and just generally, in terms of the role itself, I mean, there is, according to the ordinance, if you look at the next paragraph here, we do have to establish our own rules and procedures, and so that means, investing some time to create our own bylaws. And even within those bylaws, we can definitely dictate a lot more specifically what the role of the chair and the vice chair should be. But, if we're looking at it today or even tomorrow before establishing our bylaws, there isn't anything clear in the ordinance that outlines what that role is. But if we look, for example, and I did bring an example of the Parks and Rec Commission that kind of outlines the role of a chair and a vice chair in that situation. Not that we have to follow that, but just as a jumping off point for us. It has here, and that's on page 2 under Article 3, Section 1, bylaws, rules, procedure for Parks and Rec. So that's the second handout you have. There it says, the chair shall have the duties and powers usually attendant upon the office of chair, and such duties and powers as may be provided from time to time by the commission. The chair shall preside over the meetings of the commission, if they're present, and at each meeting, the chair shall make such reports to the commission as they may deem necessary or as may be required of the chair, and perform such other duties as are incident to the chair's office or are required by the chair by the commission. The chair, with assistance from the director of Parks and Rec in this case, shall be responsible for submitting the commission's annual report to the mayor and city council. And as with the vice chair, a lot simplified, they shall perform duties of the chair in the absence or incapacity and or because of resignation or incapacity of the chair until a new chair is elected. So again, this is very particular to Parks and Rec. But we do have the room within the ordinance to set up our own rules, but that's creating our own bylaws, and that itself, will take some time. But if we want to elect our chair, you know, talking this discussion today or even at our next meeting, you know, generally the chair's role is presiding over the meeting until we can get some more specific rules around that within the bylaws.
I think it would be helpful for the body if those that are interested or would accept being nominated as the chair to show a hand. Anyone else? And how many of you here would be interested in the vice chair position? Okay. There's no secretary.
It's only chair and vice chair.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 2 who are interested in the chair position, 1 interested in the vice chair position. Then
Vice Chair, at least.
as the interim chair said that maybe what we could do is, and I'm putting this on the table, but we can still discuss this, is to have the 2 who are interested in the chair maybe submit a statement.
Well, make a presentation tonight, and if you want to submit a written statement and get it to the staff person to disseminate to the board. So maybe we can give you.
A week,
Okay.
yeah, I'm asking, I'm asking,
I think we could do it tonight.
That's all.
I'm looking at the interest of time. I'm sorry, but,
How much time do we have?
we have until 6.
okay,
Okay.
I thought we had to.
Yeah, we have until
13
6.
minutes statement.
3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, so do you both are okay with that tonight?
Okay.
Okay, is the body okay with hearing from both tonight?
Yes.
Who
Okay,
wants to go first? If not, I'll flip a coin.
I just have a question.
There needs to
I
be a
need
motion, Veronica,
to-
and a second, and a full, like, when you're taking business
Yeah.
actions, you do need to follow Robert's rules, and it needs to be documented, and I usually.
Okay, that was
put
my
it-
question earlier.
Yes, so, yes.
Are we
so
guided by Robert's rules?
you have to make a motion to make business.
No, I know, but are we guided by Robert's
In this capacity, yes,
in this capacity?
because you actually have meeting minutes that are taken that will be published for public record.
okay.
So
We
in
talked
order,
about that earlier.
yes, so
Thank
just so you guys understand, and I will also add, because we're doing point of clarification. At this time, you are commissioners, if at any time more than a certain amount of you are in a room at the same time, you are subject to public meeting law. So even in your, like, this is something that we have to deal with, there is 11 of you. If you have a majority, a simple majority, so like literally a quorum. So if at any time you are discussing business and there are 6 of you in a room, you are now violating public meeting law. And that includes things like, hey, yo, Mr. Cruz has an event at his house. We're gonna talk about reparations and we're gonna have a conversation. And now 6 of you are in a room. That is breaking open meeting laws in which you are subject to. Please don't get caught up in. So in that capacity, just think about that. That doesn't include like things like, oh, we're going to a birthday party and we're kicking it. But just be very clear, we're kicking it, which means no business, no business. Somebody starts with like, yeet, I gotta go over here. Like, anymore, you know, like we were like chatting, those group chats had to stop, those text messages had to stop. So just think about that, because if at any point in time, somebody in community decides to FOIA you, meaning that they decide to request your emails, they decide to request your meeting minutes, they decide to request your text threads, they legally have an obligation and you legally have an obligation to oblige. So just keep that in mind as y'all are moving forward. And yes, because there's no secretary, because you literally have all of your states to take meeting minutes, and you will continue to have that for every meeting, so you guys can engage in the conversation. So just know that is why you do it. So just be very clear about what you're asking, be very clear about what you're voting for, so that way there's documentation of every decision you make. So if somebody comes in and says, Mr. Khalid, that went this way, you're like, actually, the meeting minute says, so just do
So
Oh,
it.
when in doubt,
All it
follow Robert rules of order.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And hearing that, I'll entertain a motion that the 2 candidates be allowed 3 to 5 minutes to give a presentation.
Am I allowed to ask a question about this?
During
Yes.
discussion.
Or I'll second the motion.
Discussion,
The motion has been made and second.
discussion. So are we gonna have a presentation from our chairman candidates and then they're gonna do a statement, or they're just doing
It's up
the
to-
presentation tonight?
I
We're
don't
just
know,
doing a statement and then I
up
think
to them,
vote.
if they wanna do both. They wanna do a hard sale.
Yeah, I mean, if the
wanna
body,
make
if the body agrees, you can do your statement, but then present a written statement as well, and I'll send that out, to the commission, before the next meeting.
Well, we want to leave just knowing like who's the chair and who's the vice chair.
You what?
Are we gonna leave knowing who's the chair and who's?
Well,
the
that's
vice-
why I'm asking the question.
No,
Yeah, process, just process.
you
So
voted on that,
like-
so no.
from
Oh,
a process standpoint, Ms. Veronica proposed a process to nominate yourself and turn in information about your candidacy. It is due 1 week before the April commission meeting.
Oh.
That date escapes me right now, but we will make sure you have it in writing. That could include, if you vote right now, that people get the chance to talk right now. Or it could include not doing that. You could just say, turn in your candidate statement of interest, and then Veronica is going to share that with people ahead of the next meeting, at which point there could be further things that you all want. Like if you want to hear people talk about their candidacy, that could take place. What will not happen today, because of the earlier motion that failed, which is why we were talking through all that, is that there will not be an election today. At least that's what my understanding was, because the vote was held, do you want to do that today? And only 4 people voted for that, which is not a quorum, and it's not enough to decide.
But I-
So we're talking right now about what information people need to submit their nomination of interest. I hope that's clarifying, but procedurally, that's my understanding of what's happening.
well, I think,
There's a motion on the floor
okay,
and discussion, go ahead.
with the procedure, we kind of skipped the step because we didn't go through the description of
Right.
of what the chair,
Yeah,
vice chair.
She
she
just
did.
did.
No, she just did it, but
Oh,
we
Right.
voted before we did that.
okay.
So that's why they're saying we can't vote on that now.
I don't,
Here, let's. I think the confusion is we got the instruction after that initial vote. In other words, when we voted initially, the question was, did we want to delay selection of chair or not? That was the vote. Do we want to delay selection of chair? Now, that was because what Nick said was that we needed to have some time to get to know one another, to
Right.
sort things out and think about things. Then you asked the question, who's interested? We found out we only have 2 people interested and one person who's interested in being vice chair. So in my mind, that kind of negated that first issue. Now we're already into the discussion about who we want to be chair, and we know who the candidates are now. So I'm asking,
well,
why,
that's not preventing anyone that got the information about the description and the duties and responsibility of the chair.
no, I know that.
They got that information and now they can still raise their hand. It doesn't exclude anybody.
No, I'm not saying it
Okay.
excluded anybody. I'm simply saying that when we initially voted, whether we should vote for chair tonight, and there were 4 saying yes and 4 abstentions. What I'm saying is at that moment, we didn't know how many people were interested in running. Now we do. It's just 2 people. And so I'm asking that if we had known that before that initial vote, that might have been a different vote. But we're doing this.
There's a motion on the floor now.
Yeah,
And so if, after this motion, if someone wanna make another motion,
yeah.
we'll look at it. Yes, ma'am.
Are we able to reintroduce it after even though the motion has failed?
Well,
Can we do that?
reconsideration, right?
New motion.
Reconsideration.
Brenda, you can.
It would be somebody on the prevailing side.
Can you speak up just a little?
Oh, I'm sorry. A person who voted on the prevailing side, so somebody who, well,
And
it's tied.
It's tied, so.
So there's no prevailing side.
No.
you
But I
could
guess,
just-
no, the motion failed. because it tied. So somebody who voted no, can make a motion to reconsider the previous motion. And then the body will vote on the motion to reconsider.
Yeah,
And if that
okay.
passes, then you can re-vote on the motion to have your election.
And is that person obligated then to vote in the affirmative?
No.
No, okay.
Just a count thing, we were, someone, so there were only 4 yeses. And there were, at the time,
More expensive.
no, but there were 99 to 10 people.
And what was
So
that?
did someone not, so I think in that case, did someone just not vote or raise their hand or do anything? 2 people?
A few people abstained.
Yes,
Okay.
but I don't think out of
Mm.
like, there was only 4 yeses in a room of people of like 10 people. So I'm just saying the prevailing side at that time is is it not the 6 that are like not accounted?
Abstains.
Yeah.
Since the motion failed, it's anybody who,
Somebody from that.
anybody who did not vote yes, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
somebody from that group of people would have to redecide.
Yeah.
So if you would like to, if you were one of the abstentions, if that's something that you'd like to do after the motion.
With one person left, does that change anything?
It doesn't change the quorum because the quorum is
Okay.
when the meeting started, yeah.
So anyway, there's a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? The motion is to allow them time to speak.
To allow time to present your statement for running for the position of chair.
Any more discussion?
So if I'm correct, after they make their statements, are we saying these commissioners right now,
No,
we're waiting till next week to decide after these
We-
brothers make their
I'm not
statements?
even,
Next year.
no.
If one,
Or,
excuse me,
He can
Excuse me.
reconsider the vote.
yeah, if one person that voted no want to entertain a motion to reconsider, then it's up to the board.
because what I wanted to say is I think whoever was a part of the abstainment or the no.
We're gonna know just the same.
Whoever was a part of that position of the vote. I just want to say that, if these brothers are gonna, make their statements real quick, it would just be in the best interest of who was on that side to amend that if we can real quick. That way we can kind of
Well,
move.
that's the only way we can do it.
You can't say that.
What?
Can we vote, please?
Can we
Well,
vote on,
go ahead.
we gotta move though. We
So-
got 10 minutes.
Yeah, so we have on the table, to have the 2 candidates who want to run for the position of chair to make a statement. That's the only thing that's on the table right now.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Okay.
Okay.
Here's a tail.
Okay.
Tail, you wanna go first or want to go?
According to, the African American Redress Network, the St. Paul Recovery Act, Minnesota's ranked second in the nation when it comes to reparations legislation, and that's because of the St. Paul Recovery Act. And then the Minnesota Migration Act is an extension of the St. Paul Recovery Act. And both of those I started the St. Paul Recovery Act, but it's become what it has become because I brought community members in to be a part of it. We built a lot of community partnerships with like our local NAACP, Jewish Community Actions, the BLM movement. And I've also been able to navigate us to where we're not subject to certain political pitfalls that other reparations commissions have succumbed to or weren't able to push through. Detroit has reached out to us, Kansas City has reached out to us, St. Louis has reached out to us, California has reached out to us, commissions nationwide have reached out to us to figure out how we got our reparations commission up and running. And I think because of some of the leadership that I've been able to provide has put our commission at second in the nation. And I want to continue to provide the leadership that's going to continue to keep our commission ranked high and also a model for other commissions around the country, but then also people were talking about measurements. When you actually really look at this ordinance and look at it, we put measurements in there. There needs to be an evaluation tool in there. So a lot of things that concerns, we were thinking about those concerns before we were thinking ahead, and we were looking at things or questions that might come up, and we were able to answer them, and we'll still be able to answer them going forward. So I want to continue to provide the leadership that got us to this point that we're at today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you have 3 minutes, this one.
Okay, I'll try to keep it brief. I participated in the process of drafting these articles along with Brother Traherne, and Traherne selected me to come into this process for, part of the expertise that I've provided and dealt with in the community dealing with reparations. We've also organized and reached out and surveyed over 8,000 Black families across the Twin Cities, St. Paul, North Minneapolis, and the Brooklyns. We also authored the first state reparations bill for the ADOS Reparative Justice Act, chief authored by the now president of the Senate, Senator Champion. My concern and the reason why I'm throwing my hat into the ring for the chair is because when we wrote these articles and turned them in, there were certain things that were supposed to be non-negotiable, that when they came across the table, they literally gutted the two main things that put us in a position to get things done. And that's making sure that our reach went across both the council's capacity and the city's, the mayor's capacity. We also knew we needed a budget, and the late Vic Rosenthal and me fought tooth and nail to make sure that we stopped skipping over the vitality of a budget and making sure that we understood we can't get anything done if we start out the gate without having resources. Now, the fact that we got it approved is great. However, I'm not a big fan of symbolism. I'm not a big fan of being the first in the nation for anything. What I'm here for is effectiveness. I want to make sure that we're not compromising on critical things that are going to be necessary to make sure that the city is pushed and guided and not paying us lip service, not giving us a small little stipend here and there, or even a budget specifically for the council. I want to make sure that we have access to making sure that we're changing ordinances, we're influencing and helping to establish policies and critical investments back into key infrastructure needs in our community. That's not going to just be about our standing nationally. That's going to be a fight. And I've been inside of the legislature fighting and making efforts on a state level, municipal level, and county level for the last 8 years. So I'm used to that particular dogmatic fight, and that's what I think this is going to end up being.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we want to start off with the phone call. His name is
No, just, we would just. And then also already what happening. Yeah, anyway, yes. So that would just be noticed in advance. You don't have to do that.
Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we actually conduct a vote today for chair.
I second the motion.
I third.
He was one of the individuals who abstained,
Okay.
so then you would just do it. You have a motion.
A motion for reconsideration.
Motion to reconsider. Yep. Motion to reconsider our.
Do we need a
motion to
second?
move the
I'll
election.
second that.
Motion to
Okay.
move the election,
And
or
reconsider.
to actually conduct the election. I motion to.
So
proceed
since
to
it's
the election.
reconsideration, we don't have discussion, just go straight to the motion. The motion to reconsider that we go back and hold the vote that we earlier could not get to because it was 4-4. We didn't get majority. All those in favor to reconsider, do so by raising your hand.
Or I.
Aye.
Do we need to second that motion?
He seconded, or you seconded. Oh, I
Opposed?
got you.
Mr.
It was
Booth,
another.
Are you voting? You can vote even.
I can?
Yes.
I can think-
You can vote, because in this time you're interim, so you can vote in this.
The motion carried.
Okay. So now we vote, right?
Can put on the table.
Now does someone want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to vote on the chair.
Make a motion to vote or nominate someone. Nominate.
They've already
We've
nominated.
already, we've already,
We have two
We're
nominees.
voting to see who's the
you're
chair.
the nominees.
It's two though.
So
Yeah,
So this is a whole new motion.
yes.
this is a
Yes.
motion to vote on the chair. You have to submit the.
So you don't need, okay, sorry. So you have already voted to reconsider, so now you are back on the motion. You don't need to
Okay.
re-motion. You are
Okay.
back on the motion
You're right.
For the vote
Yeah.
of holding the election.
Gotcha. So,
You don't wanna.
yes. So do we just vote?
All
The
those,
motion you're voting on right now is election today. You're reconsidering to do the election today. Yeah.
We just
That's-
voted.
We just voted on
And
it.
that's what, so now.
we just voted to reconsider.
Yeah.
We're voting
Now we-
to reconsider, and now you have to
We said
vote
yes, and
Yes.
now
to
we,
do it.
now. we
Yeah.
have to-
Okay.
So we have to vote to.
I make a motion
Vote.
that we vote on our chair today.
I second.
That's already on the,
Yeah,
No, no.
Okay,
no,
now we're there.
reconsider. First it was
Yeah.
reconsider, now we vote.
We have an attorney there.
We're voting and serving as attorney tonight, and so you have the
Got a
full.
motion, got a second, discussion, vote.
yeah, we just need to vote because we've already got the motion on the table,
Made-
just reconsidering it.
We got a motion.
Yes.
Was there a second? And you seconded, and so now.
All those in favor?
Oh,
We've already voted. We're voting on the chair.
There's always, yeah, but there's just one second. After second. Is that?
Let her speak.
Okay, so you voted to reconsider, so now the motion in front of you is the vote of whether or not to have an election.
Yeah.
So that motion is ahead of you now, so a yes vote means you will have an election tonight, a no vote means you will not have an election tonight.
Okay.
All right.
So that's where we are.
Trying to see. Everybody understand that?
Yes.
We got
Make the
that.
motion, yes.
All those in favor of holding the election tonight, do so by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried. The next motion is nomination for the position. You want to nominate?
I'd like to nominate Traherne Cruz for chair.
Any other nominations?
I would like to nominate Nick Mohammed for chair.
Okay. Any other nomination? Any other nomination? Any other nomination?
I like to
Nomination.
nominate Traherne Cruz for chair.
He's already
You're
nominated.
nominated.
Well, then there ain't no other nominations. We already know the other two anyway, though. I mean, we don't know.
Well, we're going through the process.
gotta go through the
They say we gotta go
process.
through Robert's order.
Robert is a good perfect, until we find another way of doing it. We gotta go by white man Robert. It just, it doesn't work. It's backwards.
I know, we do the consensus thing.
There we go, yeah. In the chair can switch.
You can do that.
there
Yeah,
are
yeah.
nominations, so
Two
then
candidates. Okay.
we can call,
Do we
We
go
can do a
around
blind
and do
vote
a
if you
poll
want.
or no?
yeah, would you guys rather do a blind vote or
No.
just?
Let's take
okay,
it.
Just vote.
Okay,
Yeah.
then,
Oh, for relations.
Is there anybody who wants to call for a
Yeah.
roll call vote or not?
Say again for what kind of?
Roll call.
Roll call or no?
I'd like to call for a roll call.
okay, all right, we'll roll call. Okay, so all of those,
Nope.
No, roll call, you go name by name.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just have to say Nick
okay, let me go through the
They'll
names.
say Trahern or they'll say Mr. Mohammed or Nick Mohammed. So.
All
One of
right,
the other,
hold on, let me-
Roll
starting at
call.
the top of the list.
Oh, you're gonna read
Mr.
it.
Blodorn.
yeah, I'll read each person's name and you can say who you're voting for. All right. So Joseph,
You don't have to say the last name.
Joseph, who are you?
Nick Mohammed.
supporting?
Nick Mohammed.
Okay. Trahern, who are you voting for?
Darn cool.
Okay, Jeremy,
For,
okay, Nyla,
Nick,
Nick Kalik, who are you voting for?
Right.
put on the big boy pants, come on.
Oh, I said it.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear you,
Arthur, who are
sorry.
you voting for?
Mr. Cruz.
And Nick,
Nick Mohammed.
Jamila,
We have to vote.
You
Right?
can abstain.
You can
abstain.
abstain.
okay. Julia,
Trahern.
Carla's absent.
and Carla is absent. So, who prevails is Trahern with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Nick has 1, 2, 3. And we have 1 abstention.
I'd like to make a motion.
5, 6, 7, 8.
All
Let's see if I got it.
Uh-oh, dun dun,
What?
dun dun.
Sorry, I'm just like in my head, because I'm like,
It's true though.
to be, so 5 people voted for Trahern. We have a 5. What is the count for?
It's 5-3.
5, it is 5-3, but that is not a quorum. Quorum in this case would be 6. For your ordinance, you need a quorum. You need a majority vote. 5 out of 10 is not a majority.
No,
You
it's
would
not
need
6
six.
out of 10 is.
We got 8 people.
No, she counts, even though because she was here at the time of the
Okay.
of the.
Bring to our- yeah.
And because you have an abstention, her vote, even though it does not count for or against, it still counts as a total.
So the ruling of the parliamentarian is.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm like, right, I mean,
Parliamentarian.
Well,
Camille, can you-
what is the ruling of the
right
parliamentarian?
now,
Well,
you
it's-
do not have,
Doesn't
you do not
to
have
do-
what you were saying,
Okay.
what has been established as a way to make a decision, which is you need a quorum majority. You do not have that voting in favor of either candidate. You guys can decide what to do with that information.
Hearing that, I don't know if we can move forward tonight. We have to come back, and try it again at the next meeting. And y'all can submit your written, bios to Veronica and she can disseminate that information.
Yeah, because we'll have,
Mr. McCoy, aren't
hopefully
you,
Carla will be,
are you still practicing? Yeah. Okay.
so Carla should be here then. That will make, maybe that'll make a difference, just because we'll have.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll have a number of people here, the quorum will be available.
So
Or maybe not, but.
we had at least.
Excuse me, y'all. Can we get order? Can we get order?
Oh, he would have voted.
Excuse me.
No.
Yep. You can step out there, bro, and talk.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay,
Yes, but for you.
so what's the discussion now?
So then we would be holding this vote over till, or at least to do another vote for the next meeting. And what I would need from you then, if you want, you can still submit your statements in writing and I can circulate that out when I send out the next agenda. And I think we have one,
She need it, because she didn't.
yeah, because she didn't, Carla didn't hear
From,
that.
from a situation, you do have 2 commissioners, one of which were not here, and another person who was here and left. Something you may also want to consider in your discussion is whether or not you would like to maybe hear where they are in the next vote. So just in case, so don't feel like, you do not need to change your votes, is what I'm saying. Basically, you don't need to feel pressured to switch or whatever. You can get the information and do the vote again, but keep in mind, you also have additional people who were not here today.
Right. So
In order, once again, relying on the parliamentarian, in order for the vote to be official at the next meeting, what's the threshold?
It's just it's you, at the end of the day, because of the way that it's set up right now, the ordinance that you have, and so you create your bylaws, if there's something else or whatever, the ordinance says in places you need 6 people to decide on a decision.
Because that's quorum.
That's quorum, that's your majority, because you have 11 people on your commission.
6 out of, out of 11 that's present, or
No,
total number?
That's the total number, but even in this case, because 10 people were present at the beginning of the meeting, it would still be a total.
Right.
So if in the next meeting, 7 is present, quorum at that moment of time would still, like, to have quorum for the commission is still 11, but to have quorum for a vote would be out of 7.
Can you summarize the process, Veronica, from here so that this can be the first item?
yeah,
Yeah.
from here, all I'm asking for is to have your written statement, a paragraph of, you know, what you just said, but why you want this particular role. And I will need that in a week before our next meeting. And I'll take a poll, you know, I'll do a Google poll to see when our next meeting is. And you know, you guys, you can give me some ideas now, I can narrow that. But I would at least need that statement a week before the next meeting. And that would go for even the one person who's expressed an interest in the vice chair. Now, another thing we are asking for is for each of the commissioners to present a bio of themselves, just one paragraph, you know, about yourself, your name, and, you know, some information about yourself. And that we can share as well with, you know, the person who wasn't here. So essentially, when I send out the next agenda, I will include the statement of interest for the vice chair position and, the chair position and the vice chair position. And I'll even include the bio, you know, so that there's kind of a full picture of, you know, each person. But I'm asking all the commissioners to present a bio. And for those who want to run, a statement of interest along with their bio, just to kind of reiterate that. Now, when our next meeting will be, you know, I can definitely send out a doodle poll for that.
Any other statements, questions? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn. And I want to thank our council members for hanging there with us.
Yes.
And our parliamentarian.
We appreciate you accepting us. I hope you can see that we very much want to help you conduct business and get to business. We feel the urgency and we want to support effective decision making. So thank you for allowing us to share this with you.
And we want to get it right. You know, we
Yeah.
don't want to start out on the wrong foot. Even though the road was a little bumpy, but we don't get there. God willing. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
Yeah.
All right.
Second,
All right, all those in favor?
everybody.
Okay, and I'm sorry, just one other thing, there is an evaluation there,
Yeah.
so you can either fill that out before you go or just email that to me. My email address is on there.
Okay.
yeah, turn into W4, W9.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, absolutely.